What's going on, guys? Mecha Ish here from the Jada Toys Metals Diecast Guardians of the Galaxy collection. I have the 6-inch Groot and Rocket Raccoon. Let's do it. Welcome back to another Jada Toys Metals Diecast collectible figure review, and I have the duo from the Guardians of the Galaxy, Groot with his buddy Rocket Raccoon. Now, for those of you guys that are unaware, I have done a ton of these diecast metal reviews, and I am a big fan of this line. I absolutely love it. These collectible figures are also very stylized, having humongous heads, big upper torso, and thinner legs. And for the most part, these stylized diecast figures come in the 4-inch scale, where you can see here they also have a 6-inch line, where Groot and Rocket Raccoon just scale in a lot better together. Now, both figures come enclosed in your standard anvil-shaped window box packaging. Why they do it in an anvil shape? Probably to remind you guys that this is metal. This is 100% die-cast metal, at least for the Marvel figures, so you do have to be very careful when positioning them, when displaying them. You do not want to drop them off your shelf. But let's take a look at Rocket Raccoon first. You can see here, you got that shaped window box packaging. You have the beautifully done silver foil metals die-cast. He is M154, whereas Groot is M156. You have the same 100% die-cast metal. Again, that is only for the Marvel figures so far. And then you have here on the side a beautiful image of the entire Guardians of the Galaxy movie cast. So these are die-cast figures based off the first movie. You got the logo of the movie right there, and then you see Rocket Raccoon at the bottom, and here you can see Groot. An added bonus to the 6-inch Groot here is that he actually has I Am Groot in the comic bubble, which is awesome. Now, the other sides of these boxes have the same kind of artwork, just done in a bigger scale, of course, with the 6-inch Groot. And at the back, you can see the 6-inch Groot, and here you have the 4-inch Rocket Raccoon. And here you can see they actually have Star-Lord. I don't know if he's available right now. I'll do a separate review on him when he comes out, but I definitely wanted to get the duo of Groot and Rocket Raccoon together. So let's take these guys outside of their box and let's see what they're all about. So here I have Groot and Rocket Raccoon outside of their packaging, and I really love the way they scale in together. Now, what really stands out to me about these two figures here when compared to the other figures in the Metals diecast is that while they are still in that stylized form, you do see they both have humongous heads. It's not as big when compared to their body as you would see with the other figures. Now, for those who weren't familiar with the Metals diecast style, these two would just look like really cool collectible figures. Now, let's first take a look at Rocket Raccoon, and he is 3 inches in height, but he is hefty. Again, this is all done in the die-cast metal. Even his tail is done in that metal, so there are no flexible pieces on this guy. You do see the gigantic head, but the even bigger gun, which looks awesome. But let's talk about that head sculpt first. They did a great job making that raccoon likeness come to life here. You do see the fur sculpted in there. You got the ears nicely done. I love the variation in color between kind of that grayish and then the lighter white by his eyebrows and then around his mouth. His nose is nicely done with that glossy black finish, and then his eyes are nicely done as well. You see the black pupils, the white light reflecting off of those eyes, and then the rest of it is all done in that darker brown. And looking at the side by his whiskers, of course you can see more detailed sculpt work, but then you have that nice transitioning with the paint where you have the lighter gray going into kind of black wash, and then you have the darker gray that surrounds the rest of his head. Now, at the back of his head, you can see a lot more of that furry detail sculpted in. And of course, Rocket Raccoon is rocking his spacesuit that we saw in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. You see, it's all done in that orange and black color scheme, and I love all the detailing. You see some line works right there by his little chest, going down his abs, and then you have little black straps nicely painted for the most part. And you got some more going down around his thighs there. Now, looking at his back, you see it's all done in that black. You do have more sculpt work going on, and then you have that beautifully done circle with that metallic baby blue sheen. You have good separation between the black paint used here and then the orange of his uniform, and even the gray parts of his arms, his head, and even that tail. Now, taking a look at his tail, you do see some more of that paint detailing with the lighter gray and the darker gray as we saw with his head, but then you have some more of that fantastic sculpt work with the fur going all the way throughout, and I love how it curves on over and it actually helps him stand up. Now, he does have some sculpted musculature here for the little raccoon arm of his, and you see some more of that fur as well. Now, his right arm is posed holding this gigantic gun, which is very characteristic and true to form for Rocket Raccoon. I mean, take a look at this gun. Lots of sculpted detail. It is humongous. I do love the touches of gold here mixed in with all of that nice shiny silver. This is an awesome looking gun. Now, you will see some screws here you see at the top here and a little towards the bottom of the gun, and even towards his tail here. Now, these are screws just to put in all of that die-cast pieces together. You're going to see that a lot with these Metals diecast. It does not take away from the aesthetic of the figure because it's usually towards the back. And now we get to Groot. Again, this is one of the 6-inch scale figures standing at 6.5 inches to the top of the bark right there. But he is also very heavy. Again, all done in that die-cast metal. And this is a prime example of the exceptional sculpted detail that you can expect with these Jada Toys Metals diecast figures. And while you have the top-notch sculpt work, you also have some excellent detailing with the paint. I love the way everything is done in that brown coloring, you know, representing that tree-like nature of Groot. And then you have the darker brown outlining all of his ridges and little notches. But then you have some little touches of green highlighted across, scattered throughout his body, and especially outlining the top of his head sculpt. And he is loaded with sculpted in detail, as I mentioned earlier, and they are all accentuated by the darker brown colored in. I mean, this is awesome. His head sculpt is amazing. You can see the layering here and the ridges going inside and surrounding his eyes. The sculpt of his eyes are done nicely as well, and you see the deep black all in the center. You got that little white circle reflecting the light off, and then you have a little bit of the white at the edges there finishing off the sculpt. But I just love the way this looks. And of course, this is a happy looking Groot. You see he has a little bit of a smile, and you have some more of the ridges sculpted in at the upper and lower parts of his lip. Now you see the upper part of his head sculpt makes him look like he's wearing a crown, and then when you get to the back, you can see you even have some more sculpted in bark. He has a very thick neck. You can see all of the line work and the ridges sculpted in there going onto his plated chest, which I love the way they have the bark sculpted on top, and you can see how deep it goes. And I love that they again accentuated everything with that darker brown coloring. And then going down his lower torso, you have some more of the layers. And then I just love how everything is so uneven looking, very representative of a real life tree. Now his left arm is sculpted nicely and posed in a way where he is holding his palm out, and you can see the transitioning in color again. You got the lighter brown here, then little spots of that yellow where it gets really bright here around his palm. You can see kind of the greenish yellowish color at the center of his palm. It's all done in that white. You see some more of that greenish yellow coloring at the back of his hand, and I really love the touch of the spots of that coloring going up his forearm. Now while his left arm is lighting the way, his right arm is just posed in your standard position. More fine detailing going all the way down to the base of his feet. As you can see, it fans out a little bit more, really helps this big guy stand. Now going down this big back of his, you can see some vine work sculpted in there. You have some more of the bark on the left and right side, and even covering his bottom there, which is a nice touch. Of course, you have some of the holes again like we saw with Rocket, but here it's a little more prominent because you have those deep black holes with screws in there. Again, it's to hold all of the die-cast pieces together. Now for both Rocket and Groot, even though you may see some what may look like articulation cuts, there is no articulation, at least on these Marvel die-cast figures. Some of the DC and some of the other lines of the Metals die-cast do have minimal articulation, but here this is more like a miniature statue, if anything. So there you have it, guys, my video review of the Jada Toys Metals diecast Guardians of the Galaxy Rocket, Raccoon, and Groot. I am in love with this line, and if you are a fan of stylized collectibles, here you have highly detailed diecast figures that will look awesome on your shelves. And Jada Toys has their hands on several different licenses and are on the rise. Plus, their prices are very comparable to, say, that of Funko Pop figures, which you guys know I have a ton of love for. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my channel for other reviews of the Metals diecast figures, and I have a ton more on the way. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. You know what to do. Peace.